Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday night talks. This evening has been a source of comfort and encouragement for so many of us each Tuesday night, so thank you for coming back and joining us. Tonight, we want to dedicate the talk to the memory of Yisrael Zev ben Brindle, Dr. Irving Buterman, and we wish his neshama to have an aliyah. We stand all together also wishing a refuah shlema to the many, many people who are suffering with the coronavirus, and we stand together as a community for our own community and for the greater community, wishing them refuah. We also dedicate this evening's learning with our thanks to the medical professionals and health professionals who are on the front lines each and every day. Thank you for all of the work you are doing. Tonight, we are privileged to have Rabbi Kenneth Schiowitz, Ramaz Upper School Director of Judaic Studies and Chairman of the Talmud Department. Rabbi Schiowitz is also the President of the RCBC, the Rabbinical Council of Bergen County, who have done amazing work for the Jewish community throughout this crisis. His talk, Preparing for Pesach 2020, How is this Pesach different from all other years, will be moderated with our own Matthew Gross, class of 2014. The evening will be opened with Rabbi Schiowitz delivering some Divrei Torah, and then Matthew will take the question and answers from the bottom of your screen, the Q&A at the bottom where you can enter questions. Some of you already did submit questions in advance, but you can submit your questions. Only Matthew and Rabbi Schiowitz's screens will be available and their mute buttons will be off. So everyone else's questions and answers can be submitted through the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. We ask that you ask a question, and any questions that are unanswered at the end of the talk, we will try and get to as well at a different moment. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us for this evening, and thank you both Rabbi Schiowitz and Matthew Gross. Rabbi Schiowitz.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'd like to start a little bit in the abstract and then move more to the practical of Pesach preparations. And I'd like to start with a line of the Haggadah that may or may not be familiar because it comes from the very end. It's the opening line of Nirtzah at the end of the Seder. And it says, Chasal Sidur Pesach Kil Chaso, Kechol Mishpato V'chukato, that we've completed the entire Pesach according to all of its laws. Ka'asher Zachinu L'sadero To, Kein Nizkel L'asov To, like we had the opportunity to arrange it, we should also have the opportunity to do it. And then it ends with a tefillah that the Shochein Me'onah, that God should uplift the Jewish people and bring us back to Tzion, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim habniyah. This quote was written by Rav Yosef Tuvelim in the 11th century, and it was originally placed as a piyut in the Musaf of Shabbat HaGadol, and now we've placed it in the beginning of Nirtzah. And it actually changed its meaning because in the context of Shabbat HaGadol, we would interpret it as follows. Ka'asher zachinu l'sadero to, just like we had the opportunity to organize all of our preparations and they would learn the halachot of Korban Pesach on Shabbat HaGadol, so just like we had the opportunity to learn about the Pesach, so too may we merit in the coming days to actually do the Pesach, Korban Pesach, and the Seder of Pesach. But now that we move it to the end of the Haggadah, after we've done Pesach, now we should really interpret it differently, which is, just like we've had the opportunity to do the Seder, so too should we have the opportunity to really do it, meaning to bring the Korban Pesach, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim habniyah, in Yerushalayim habniyah. And this point really says in the most blatant and explicit way possible something that I think is really subtly alluded to throughout the Haggadah, which is the fact that freedom in the sense of Pesach is not just freedom from slavery, but it's freedom to. It is freedom not just to leave something, but to go somewhere else. And this was not the end, the touchdown, but this was only one step in a journey which would culminate in Har Sinai, coming to get the Torah and coming to Eretz Israel and to worship God in the Beit HaMikdash. This theme is actually said explicitly in the Chumash, and at two main places. One is in the Az Yashir. The moment the Jewish people crossed the Yam Suf and wanted to give thanks to God for this amazing miracle that saved them, in the Az Yashir we say, Tivi'emo v'tita'emo bahar nachlatcha, machon l'shiftecha pa'alta Hashem, mikdash Hashem konu yadecha. That now that we've left, now we're thinking about where we're going to next, which is to the mikdash Hashem. And similarly, in Shmot, Perek Gimel, when God first appears to Moshe and tells him about his mission that he's going to go on to free the Jewish people, God says, when you leave this place, you will bring the Jewish people to worship God on this place, which is Har Sinai and ultimately the Beit HaMikdash. In other words, the purpose of the Exodus was not just an exodus to leave, but it was to come to have a closer relationship with God, to have a moral mission, to have a Torah, and to worship God in his place in the Beit HaMikdash. And for that reason, there are so many ways that in the Haggadah, we subtly allude to the centrality of the Beit HaMikdash. We have the Zroa, the shank bone, to remember the Korban Pesach. We have the egg. We have the Dayenu song, in which we list everything that God graciously did to us and for us, and we culminate with Bana Lanu at Beit HaBechira. That is the end. Not that that's the end of our history, but that's the end of this story. The story of Yetziat Mitzrayim is leaving Mitzrayim, coming to get the Torah, coming to the Beit HaMikdash and worshiping God in the Beit HaMikdash. And therefore, the Korban Pesach is the centerpiece of the Seder, where we eat a sacrifice that was brought in the Beit HaMikdash at our table and tell the story. We left Mitzrayim and we've come to this place. We eat the korech and we say, Zecher leMikdash kehillel. This is to remember what Hillel did in the Beit HaMikdash. We wash our hands before the wet karpas because we act as if we were in the Beit HaMikdash when we would wash our hands for wet vegetables. And one more thing that I want to highlight, which I think is critical, is that the centerpiece of the Magid is the reading and studying of 4 psukim of Sefer Devarim we call Arami Oved Avi. And we read these 4 psukim to use them as a way of describing the story of leaving Mitzrayim. That we started off in Mitzrayim, and then we were suffering, and then we cried out to God, and God saved us and did these miracles for us. And a lot of people want to know why this text in particular was chosen. And I think that the answer is the 2 psukim that follow. The pasuk after pasuk tet, Vayevi'enu el makom hazeh, vayitin lanu et ha'aretz hazot, eretz zavar chalad u'dvash. This description of the story of Mitzrayim is unique in the Torah in that it's the only one which connects leaving Mitzrayim and coming to Eretz Israel. V'hinei heveiti et reshit pri ha'adama asher natata li Hashem. That now I'm coming lefnei Hashem Elokecha to the Beit HaMikdash, in context bringing the bikurim lefnei Hashem Elokecha. This is the only time that the Torah connects the leaving on Mitzrayim to the culmination of coming to Eretz Israel, to the Beit HaMikdash. And it's possible, and some Mefarshim have said this, that it used to be the case that all of these psukim were said at the Haggadah. And now we omit the last two psukim because we can't say that God brought us to this place because we are not in the place that God brought us to. So we omit these two psukim because we want to be honest and we can't say them. And we also want to subtly accentuate the fact that the story of Mitzrayim culminates with the Beit HaMikdash. And we leave those psukim out, almost like a deafening silence of what happened next. We can't really say because we long for the Beit HaMikdash. But the thing I want to bring your attention to is the fact that we make all these allusions so subtly throughout the night. We have a shank bone, we have the Dayenu, which mentions the Beit HaMikdash, we have the Korech, we have the Arami Oved Avi, and omit those two psukim. But it's so subtle. It's so subtle that if I wouldn't have pointed it out to you, you might not have realized that the centerpiece of the story is coming to the Beit HaMikdash. And it's only at the end of the Seder, past midnight, when we get to the Nirtza, when half the people are sleeping, that we say, L'shana haba b'Yushalayim haBnuyah, that this is the focal point of the Haggadah. And the question that I want you to think about, and I want to explore with you, is why make it so subtle? Why not be more explicit about what the purpose of leaving Mitzrayim was? And I'd like to propose something based on one of my favorite books, which is The Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. And my favorite page in this book is when he describes all the places you'll go in life. And one of the places is the waiting place. The places where you wait, because so much of your life is waiting for the phone to call, waiting for, whatever it is. My kids, when I would read them this book, they love this line over here, to the bathroom. Everyone waiting to use the bathroom. But, it's so true that so much of life is waiting for something else. And the problem with focusing your life on the waiting place, because really everything in life is waiting for something else. Everything is a step in the journey towards something else. And if we always think about the things in our lives and the moments of our lives, that high school, you're waiting for college, and college, you're waiting for graduate school, and graduate school, you're waiting for your job, and then your job, you're waiting for your promotion, and every single thing is waiting for the next thing, then when are we actually at the place where we want to focus on and say, this is our goal, this is our destination, this is the important moment that we've been waiting for? And I believe that what the Haggadah tries to show us is that it was so important that the goal of leaving Mitzrayim was to come to the next stage, but we don't want that to flood our attention on the night of the Seder. We want to take the moments to appreciate where we are now and not lose that. And this really comes to my mind because I feel like so much of my mind is waiting for this all to end, waiting for the virus to pass, waiting for to find out what's going to happen at the end. And I would like us to think about the fact that it's not only about the end, but it's also about the moment, even if the moment isn't complete. And one other example of this is beautifully highlighted by the Sefer HaChinuch. The Sefer HaChinuch describes the goal of the mitzvah of Sfirat HaOmer. And he says that Sfirat HaOmer, we count the days from Pesach to Shavuot because we want to show that the purpose of leaving Mitzrayim was to get the Torah, to get to Shavuot. So we count the days from the day we left Mitzrayim. We count every day towards the day of Matan Torah on Chag HaShavuot. And the Sefer HaChinuch asks, if that's the case, so why start from the second day of Pesach? Start from the first day of Pesach. Why don't many people have the minhag to count the Omer at their Seder, but that's only a galut idea, because in Eretz Yisrael, where there's only one Seder, there's no Sfirat HaOmer until the first night of Chol HaMoed. And Sefer HaChinuch says the reason why we don't count Omer on the first night of Pesach is because we want to take one moment to appreciate fully what we have right now. And tomorrow, Machar, is the time to think about where we want to go next. We have to feel the moment that we're in. Natan Sharansky recently spoke to high school students about being quarantined, and it's hard to compare the decades of his quarantine to what we're experiencing. But he talked about his time in isolation and in prison. And he said, you can't just, he didn't sit every day saying, I hope I'll get out at the end of this, year after year, decade after decade. He lived every day, he said, for that day, to take advantage of that day, to live that day for what it was. Because, he said, he had no idea if he would ever come out alive. He never knew the end of his story. He did what he did each day because he felt that it was right for that day. And he also tried to take advantage of the opportunity that he had. And he gave an example that he had a very bad singing voice, and no one ever wanted to hear him sing. So when he was a child, he was always not singing because whenever he sang, people would tell him to stop. So he said in prison, he sang his heart out as loud as he could. And he enjoyed singing. This was his opportunity to sing. He learned how to play chess in his mind. And he encouraged the students to take this opportunity that we have now and not just say we're waiting to get out of it, but to say that we're in a unique situation and let's live it for what it is now. Let's think about what opportunities we have now that we don't ever have and try to make the most of it. To think about developing and improving our relationships with our families who we're stuck together with. To read a book or to learn something that we've never had the time to read about. To do chesed and kindness for other people in ways perhaps that we never have done before. The Chafetz Chaim says a beautiful thing, that the Chafetz Chaim believes that we were redeemed from Mitzrayim as a reward for the kindness that Jews did for one another, even though it's not really alluded to in the Chumash. The Midrash says that Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Uma Eilu Shehein Ba'atzman Shichin Chesed, Ve'osim Chesed Eilu Im Eilu. These Jewish people who are enslaved, they really should be recipients of Chesed. They're in such a difficult situation, and yet they're doing kindness for each other. Ani Malay Chesed V'Rachamim. I am bursting, God says, with the ability to do kindness for others. How can I not do kindness for them? That the Jewish people in slavery helped each other, and Rav Olshin wrote and suggested that when we say in the Halach Ma'anya, Kol Ditzrich Yesei V'Yifsach, which is such a hard thing to say this year. Whoever wants to come join me in my Seder. But Rav Olshin said that passage is a reference to what the Jews did in Mitzrayim, that Jews would get a certain amount of food to eat for themselves, and they would break it in half and give to somebody else, just like the stories we've read in the Holocaust. And that's the merit that we had to be redeemed from Mitzrayim, because even in that circumstance, we were giving kindness to others. Think about others who we might be able to help, who might be less able than ourselves to get out or to make Pesach preparations or to do shopping, and to help them. And most importantly, to do the kindness to everyone in the world of staying alone and confined so that we don't spread this disease. It's an unbelievable chesed that we can do for others, and it's a chesed where you don't know who you're giving it, who you're saving. You don't know, by you staying at home, you don't know who might have gotten the disease if you didn't do that. But we do know in the big picture that we are helping other people in the world, and it's really a chesed shel emet, because you can actually save someone's life, but that person will never know it, will never thank you for it, will never know that he was saved, and you won't know it, but it's the truest chesed that we can do at this time. So take the opportunity to try to maximize on this moment, and like at the Pesach Seder, where we really aspire towards the Beit HaMikdash. We aspire towards the Korban Pesach, but we don't let that flood and shadow what we're trying to focus on this night. And just one more point that I would like to highlight about Pesach, which is that there's an incredible dichotomy in Pesach. In the Chumash, it says that when the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim and they brought the Korban Pesach, Atem lo teitzu ish mi Pesach beito ad boker. You do not leave your house until the morning. The night of Pesach, every Jewish family was obligated to quarantine in their own homes. And of course, we presume this is because the Malach HaMavet was coming that night and was going to kill all the firstborns, and we had to stay safe in our homes. But really, this is a fundamental aspect of Pesach, to celebrate in the intimacy of our homes and in our families. The Korban Pesach was brought, Se Leveit Avot Se Labayit. One small Korban, one small lamb for each family, but it was brought by Kol Kahal Adat Yisrael, by the entire nation. It was a national celebration. Pesach is the moment when the Jewish people became a nation. The nation is born. At the same time, it's so important that it's really always fundamentally celebrated in an intimate manner in the home. And we also know that Sefer Shemot, the Ramban says that Sefer Shemot is called the Sefer Hagalut v'Hageula, the book of the exile and the redemption. And the Ramban asks on himself that the exile and redemption only really characterizes the first half of Sefer Shemot. What about the second half of Sefer Shemot? Teruma, Tetzaveh, Kitisa, Vayakel, Pekude. It's all about the building of the Mishkan, nothing to do with the Exodus. And the Ramban says that the Yesod HaMishkan, the Sod HaMishkan, the essence of the exile was not just our slavery. It was the exile of God's presence from among the Jewish people. That the Shekhinah of God, the presence of God was felt in the homes of the Avot. Sefer Bereshit is the development of the Jewish family. And God's Shekhinah dwelled in the homes of Avraham and Sarah and Yitzchak and Rivka and Yaakov and Rachel and Leah. And God's Shekhinah was exiled when the Jewish people came to Mitzrayim. And the book of Shemot is the return of God's Shekhinah to the Jewish people. And that was achieved through the Mishkan. It's the exile and the redemption and the return of God's Shekhinah to the Mishkan, to the Jewish people. But you see that the paradigm of God's presence resting in the Jewish people is really in the home, like the homes of the Avot. And then the Mishkan is expanding it. And then, therefore, on Pesach, we have this contrast where it's a national holiday. It's Kol Kahal Adat Yisrael. Every Jew would go to the Beit HaMikdash and offer their Korban Pesach, and then they would take that Korban Pesach home with them and eat in the intimacy of their family. And you have this tension of being a nation and being an intimate family, building a connection with God. And of course, this year we're going to be really emphasizing the intimate aspect of feeling God's presence in the intimacy of our homes, not in shul and not in big sidarim, but we have this ability to unify and connect to all Jews, Kol Kahal Adat Yisrael, wherever they are, as one nation, but each doing it in the intimacy of our homes and building a very, very personal connection between ourselves and God. And we hope that this will not just be something that will get through and that will survive and that will get over with, but maybe it will be something that will make us better, and maybe it will make an impact on us that we connected more and grew from it, and we're able to carry that over for the years to come, even after this, God willing, will be over with as few casualties as possible. So I want to really, first and foremost, wish everyone a very, very meaningful Pesach, and a Pesach that we can really take full advantage of. And I'd like to ask my host if he'd like to add anything, thoughts of reflection, and then we can move over to some of the halachot of Pesach.
Me?
That's you.
So thank you so much, Rabbi Schiowitz. That was a beautiful vort. It's a tremendous honor to be on this panel with you. Just to give Rabbi Schiowitz some time, I was telling Rabbi Schiowitz a beautiful idea I read today, and he thought it would be a very nice idea to share as part of this panel. As I'm speaking, people please feel free to post questions in the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen of any halachic questions you have regarding Pesach, on top of the ones that were submitted before, and hopefully Rabbi Schiowitz will try to get to as many as he can. But as he was saying, as Rabbi Schiowitz was saying, that especially in this year, in definitely such an intimate Pesach, I think a lot of us definitely have kind of been feeling, especially at this point, 2 or 3 weeks in, the kind of feeling of like being stuck at home and how do I make the best of my day and how do I really try to find a positive aspect in my day. So thank God I started doing some Haggadah prep, and I was using the Haggadah of Rav Pam, who is the famed Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivas Torah V'das. And he explains that when we say Kiddush at the Seder, and for many of the holidays, we always say the bracha of Baruch Hashem Nekadesh Yisrael V'Hazmanim. Blessed are you, Hashem, for sanctifying Yisrael and the Zmanim, and the times and the holidays. And he explains that we know that the calendar was given to the Jewish people, that when the Jews left Egypt, the first mitzvah we got was Rosh Chodesh, HaChodesh Hazeh, Rosh Chodeshim, Lachem, and that we as a calendar, the Sanhedrin, gets to decide the months of the Jewish people, which therefore decide when the holidays fall in. And he explains that many of us feel as though that power, that sanctification of time, only is reserved for the Sanhedrin, the Jewish court, and whatnot. But really, he says a beautiful line. He says that not only is that power reserved for the Sanhedrin, but rather each and every Jew has the opportunity to be Mekadesh their Zman, to sanctify their time. And the way he writes it is he says, just as the Sanhedrin declared about each month, Mikudash, it is sanctified, so too each individual has the power to declare about his own personal time. This month is sanctified. This day, this hour is set aside for Kedusha. And he explains that in terms of the greater holiday aspect, that 100% will be dictated by the Sanhedrin and when they decided when the month starts. But how do we approach each one of our days, and how are we going to plan out our day? And are we going to make our day of a day of Kedusha, of holiness, or of Chol? And something for me personally that's been an amazing experience, and definitely silver lining in this whole area, is that I think that when you're at home and you get to spend time with your family, you get to really just introspect and be with yourself. You get to work on certain things that you may have never been able to work on before. So for me, being that I'm still young and I live with my parents, the idea of being able to help out with kibbud av va'em and do some grocery shopping for the family, or help cook dinner, do the dishes. These are things that in the past were seen as much more tedious tasks or tasks that you might not want to do with a smile on your face. But now, this time, it gives you a real opportunity to work on these things and try and make the best of your time. So he further says that just like how the Sanhedrin did the Rosh Chodesh on 2 ways, either they saw the new moon and they decided, all right, it's Rosh Chodesh, or they calculated it out through the calendar. They could decide how exactly when the month would fall out. And Rav Pam explains that it would be strategically incorrect to not plan your days and try and have some structure and just on whim decide how to go about your day. Rather, we should do it the way of al pi hacheshbon, through calculating and either making a schedule or setting aside a couple of minutes, 30 minutes, an hour a day for, I'm going to be productive and read here, I'll work out during this time. And in that regard, we really maximize our time to the fullest so that we can have the best experience at home. And I think this answers in another question that for most of the Rishonim, the original commentaries post the Gemara era, there was an idea that perhaps at meals you would wash before Kiddush. And the Ramah makes it very clear that on Seder night, there's absolutely no reason you should ever wash before Kiddush. It's imperative that that Kaddish comes first. And I wanted to say that, perhaps with this idea from Rav Pam, you could explain that the reason why the Ramah is, preempting your question of, shouldn't we wash first, and why we have to start with Kaddish, which is the whole idea of being Mekadesh L'Zaman, to be seen in one of two ways. It could either be that as we are reliving the Seder night and we're reliving the Exodus from Egypt, the first thing that the Jews got when they left was the idea to be Mekadesh L'Zaman, because the real sense of freedom is sovereignty over your time. So the first thing they did was they're going to be Mekadesh L'Zaman, so we're going to be the Mekadesh L'Zaman the first time at the Seder. Or you could say a different way, which is that in the same way that the Seder is a blueprint, right? There's all these different stopping points. There's 15 different parts of the Seder, Kaddish, Orchav, Karpas, Yachad, and there's all these different things, but how are we going to approach the Seder? How are we going to do it? Are we going to try and just run through it? Are we going to sit back? Are we going to enjoy, be with the family, have a nice time, either be with yourself? And I think Hashem is basically saying to us, I'm giving you the Seder as the blueprint. You be Mekadesh that Zman, and you do with it as you please. And we're reminded that to start the Seder with Kaddish.